Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Thank you. And welcome everybody to another edition of Focus with Ronnie Frierson. I am your host, Ronnie Frierson. Again, welcome to my viewers and listeners around the world and in our beautiful, wonderful country. And we're going through a crazy time in politics. There's a lot going on, and it's crazy just about every election season, and this is no exception. Now, some things happened recently, and typically with this show, what I like to do is kind of touch on some of the current events in the beginning of the show. And what I want to touch on today to start off the show is the election season, the campaign, and the candidates. And my contributing host today, my guest, is the great, I call him the young legend, Mr. Ajay Relan. Say hi to the people, AJ.
Hey, how you guys doing? Thank you for having me. That's right.
AJ is an extraordinary individual. He's a good friend, obviously, and a great person. And I think his voice is one that needs to be heard. And he's doing a lot of great things around the country. And he's going to be big time. And I'm glad that he took time out of his schedule to come and speak with us here at Focus.
Excited to be here.
Yeah. So, as I was saying, today we find out that Paul Ryan, the former vice presidential candidate who ran with Mitt Romney, has decided to, at least for the moment, turn down the offer to become the Speaker of the House since John Boehner has decided to retire. And I bring that up because there's a common narrative in politics. It's almost like we accept lies. So let me explain. John Boehner decided to retire because he was basically tired of trying to herd cats. There are roughly, 535 members of Congress. He has to, the nature of his position is to come to a compromise so that bills can get passed. Bills can get passed and move forward into the Senate and to the president's desk. But Congress has been at a stalemate because they can't get anything out of the House, largely due to the far right-wing part of the Republican Party. So that far-right fringe, which holds a lot of power in the fact that there is enough numbers to gum up any possibility towards progress or a vote, has Paul Ryan really reluctant to take the position because he says, this is where the lies come in. He says it's because he has young children. Well, he had young children when he was running for the vice presidential bid with Mitt Romney. I think it's more so because he wants to run for president, and it makes sense. But the fact that it's only logical that he doesn't want to become the Speaker of the House because he wants to run for president one day, the fact that he wouldn't just say it, or at least don't come up with a lie just because I have young kids, and we willingly accept that. Along with that, Kevin McCarthy, who was second in line to John Boehner and was the favorite for getting the speakership, he dropped out of the race because the race for speaker, pursuing that seat, because he basically told the truth about the Benghazi hearings and Hillary Clinton. He came out and said that Hillary was doing fine, but look, we formed this Benghazi committee, and look at her numbers now. Essentially admitting the fact that this committee was a farce. There have been 7 other investigative committees looking at the Benghazi incident, and nothing bipartisan, nonpartisan committees, and it came out that she did nothing wrong. There were some improvements that need to be made in regards to security, but there was nothing wrong and nothing illegal, nothing unethical that she did. But because it's election season and they want to muddy her up, not to say that I'm a Hillary supporter, but because they want to dirty her name and muddy her up, they decided to form another Benghazi committee. And he admitted it. Once he admitted it, all of his Republican colleagues came in and they were upset with him. And they said, you cannot be the Speaker of the House now. And that's when John Boehner's name came into the, not John Boehner, but Paul Ryan's name came to the fore. So the fact that we live in a political age where lies are accepted even by the media, and they know it, but they still feed us these lies, it's no wonder why most of the public is disaffected and just basically numb and try to stay away from politics because they think they're all liars, they're all crooks because they're politicians. And there's really no one to check on them unless it's something scandalous that can get, tabloid attention. So, I don't know, you have any thoughts on that?
Nah. I mean, I'm pretty, I don't know, this is all news to me.
Yeah.
And it all just, I mean, I've always kind of never really thought about politics.
And that's a perfect example. Why?
My generation I feel like we're so disconnected. I mean, it's just all bullshit.
There you go.
It's unfortunate that there's people out there that are, on the lower tier of our society. Poverty, income inequality that gap is getting even bigger and bigger, and all people want to worry about is, who did what to who, and just that's exactly what it is, right? It's politics.
That says it all. AJ said it all. He said the people of his generation, they basically are disaffected by politics. And because of that, a lot of these guys can get away with these lies and mistruths and misdirection, and no one's going to call them to the carpet on it because people are like, they're turned off in the whole process.
It's a joke.
It's a joke.
Think about it. If a 15-year-old in Iowa can register to run for president under the name D's Nuts, and you know what I'm saying? That's like,
yeah, I know.
You got
That's
Kanye
crazy.
West talking about it. I mean, that's like that's as far as it really goes. It's a
Idiocracy.
story. Yeah, and it's fun. It's funny.
It is fun. It is hilarious. And if you look, and we don't look at ourselves through the eyes of the world. We tend to look at other countries and say what they do and what they don't do and judge them, but it's harder for us to look internally to see how silly some of the things that we are doing to ourselves. Mm-hmm. And again, in my opinion, the media allows them to do it when they're supposed to be that check, that balance, that truth seeker to kind of tell us, what's real and what's not. They're so caught up in ratings and things of that sort that they want to go to whatever's sexy. And then on the other side, you got Donald Trump over there, and he's a joke, but at the same time, he's a joke that gets attention. And because he gets attention, they're going to continue to put the mic in his face, and he's going to rise in the polls because people are so caught up in his campaign. I said it once before on the show, there's a difference between campaigning and governing. Mm-hmm. This is not an episode of The Apprentice. It's not about a popularity contest, so to speak, if you cannot do the job. And I don't know. So he's out there doing his thing. Hillary, who's probably the most qualified, but I mean, I don't dislike Hillary for the reasons other people dislike Hillary. I don't know. I just didn't like the way she conducted herself during the Obama campaign. But other than that, I think that she is qualified, and I think she would probably make a better president in regards to governing, in regards to competence, than some of these other guys. Bernie Sanders, who's beating her in the poll, and I think much of the reasons why he's beating her in the polls is because of these manufactured stories like the one I spoke about earlier with Benghazi, and they just try to muddy her name and things of that sort because it's all political gamesmanship. So, and I want to know what you think about Ben Carson for a multitude of reasons. not only because he's a conservative, two, he's African American, he's obviously intelligent, but he says some off the wall stuff. And what's your take on him?
I think it was today that it came out, his statement about Hitler and gun control and the Holocaust, and if the Jews had guns, how much different it would have been. And it was just, it's the dumbest shit I ever heard. You know, I'm like looking at this dude. I'm like, are you serious? Like, how do you even draw that? How do you draw that comparison? There's literally, there's nothing. I mean, to back up a little bit on what you said. I mean, so that we're the greatest country that's graced this earth, you know, in the history. And, you know, unfortunately, history always repeats itself. And you have, you know, Ottoman empires, Roman empires, the minute that it gets to pretty much the point where we're at now, where you become disconnected from the people that you're actually supposed to be serving. And you're essentially saying, it's just, I can't even watch it. It's a joke, you know? So I look at Ben Carson, I'm like, yeah, it's probably the closest thing to my skin color. I mean, honestly, I think that's why I voted for Obama, to be honest. I mean, said the right things, good-looking guy, cracked a joke here and there, but the closest thing that looked like me, you know. But it's like now we're at the point where I forgot the guy's name, the last election, the pizza guy.
Herman Cain.
Yeah, man, it's a joke. Yeah. It's a sideshow. So
it is a sideshow.
To say that if the Jews had guns, the Holocaust wouldn't have been a Holocaust.
See, actually, I think that that's kind of enlightening what you say when you say you voted for President Obama because he was black. But I think it was more than that, because the reason why I say that is because of your reasoning behind not supporting Ben Carson. Now, he's close to our skin color, but you're not voting for him. So it was not just the fact that Obama was black. I think that's what really intrigued you, but it was his message because, I mean, in my time, I could have voted for Alan Keyes, who was a Republican back in, I want to say in the 2000s or something like that. And I could have voted for Herman Cain or Al Sharpton. There's a lot of them that came before President Obama, but he was that mix, and he was also an opportunity to make history, but he was competent and deserving of the job in regards to what he could bring to the table and how he would represent our country. And I don't see that with Ben Carson. To be so smart, it shows that you can be smart in some areas and dumb in others. And trust me, I'm looking in the camera, trust me, I'm the same way. I'm smart in some areas and I'm dumb in others. And we've all been that way. Yeah. I've made some dumb decisions in my life. Now, that being said, he's obviously smart in medicine, but he must be a little dumb when it comes to history. If you think about what you just said, if the Jews had guns, yeah, something would have happened. But the Russian army had guns, and more Russians got killed during World War II than Jews got killed in concentration camps. And they had guns, they had rockets, they had all this stuff, and more of them got killed. The British had guns and fought against them. I mean, so just having guns is not going to keep you from being killed. And the fact that you even bring that up, that heinous crime on humanity, to use that to make a point of, to use that and the suffering that all those people and that we still feel to this day as a huge lesson of never let that stuff happen again, to use that to make your point as to why there should be no gun control shows to me that you have a lack of you don't know what to say and when to say it. You have a lack of tact, a lack of real understanding and respect in many ways for the plight of others. You just don't do that. You don't bring up that to make a point about whether or not we should have gun control. And so that kind of sickened me right there. But at the same time, he is doing well in the polls. Which is another testament to the times that we live in. It's crazy. I don't get it. So, which also again brings up this whole thing with what he called, or Paul Ryan's book of choice, I think it was called, it was an Ayn Rand book, and she spoke about useful idiots. They like to keep a dumb electorate that will vote on stuff that really doesn't matter, whether or not somebody burns a flag, whether or not gay people can get married, as opposed to real policy and what can affect people's lives. And speaking of real policy and what affects people's lives, our main focus of what we're going to talk about And before we get there, it's a song that's by my favorite artist of all time, Prince. It's called Money Don't Matter. And part of it is, and it's the main reason why we're talking tonight, and it's poverty in America, it's homelessness in America, it's hunger in America, the wealthiest country on the face of the earth, the proud capitalists that we are. We're forgetting a whole segment of our population, a whole segment of our society. And the problem is that percentage is growing. So before we go to listen to a little bit of Money Don't Matter tonight by Prince, and we're going to talk about it on the other side of this song, I want to give you a couple of numbers. According to the HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, there are over, and this is 2013, there were over 600,000 that were homeless. Okay. And if you look at StudentsAgainstHunger.org, it says 3.5 million people were homeless. And the fastest growing segment of the homeless are families with children. And that's something to think about. With homelessness comes hunger, and with that comes social ills. With that comes crime, because when you're hungry, you can't concentrate in school. If you're a student going to school and you want to work in your studies, if you have an empty stomach, it's hard to concentrate. If you're hungry and you're a father, you need to go out and feed your kids. And you can't get a job, or for whatever reason, then you're going to go out and do what you think you need to do to support your family, or you just give up, or you try to escape reality through drugs. So poverty and hunger and all this stuff, it affects us in so many ways. There are probably some people who don't mind going to jail because they know at least while they're in jail they have 3 meals a day and a place to sleep, and that's terrible. So we're going to play that song really quick, and when we come back, we're going to get deeper into the subject, and I really want everyone to hear what AJ has to say and the stuff that he's doing. So important, the stuff that he's doing to help combat some of these ills that are taking place in our society. So let's play the song.
One more card and it's 22. Unlucky for him, making. He never had respect for money, it's true. That's why he never wins. That's why he never ever has enough to treat his lady right. He just pushes her away in a huff. Says money don't matter tonight. Money don't matter tonight. It sure didn't matter yesterday. Just when you think you got more than enough, that's when it all up and flies away. That's when you find out that you're better off making sure your soul's alright. Money didn't matter yesterday, and it sure don't matter tonight. Look, here's a cool investment. They're telling him he just can't lose. So he goes out and tries to find a partner, but all he finds are users. All he finds are snakes in every color, nationality and size. Seems like the only thing that he can do is just roll his eyes and say that money don't matter tonight. It sure didn't matter yesterday. Just when you think you got more than enough,
That's a bad boy right there. That's one of the few people that I've ever met. I've met him like 5 or 6 times. I'm actually starstruck. This a bad boy. Money Don't Matter Tonight by Prince. If you don't have that track, you need to go and pick it up. If you guys would like to call in, the phone number to call in is area code 323-843-2826. Again, 323-843-2826. Now, Ajay Relan, what can I say? It's very seldomly, though, I meet people that have the sort of aura and energy that this guy's have. This guy exudes positivity. He's a sincere guy. He's an old soul. You know, he's barely 30, if 30, and he has the consciousness of somebody 2 or 3 times his age, and the way he looks out for his fellow man, for his brothers, and it's a smart guy as well. AJ started this foundation and this movement called #Lunchbag. I'm sure you've seen some of the commercials. You may have seen him in these commercials for Wells Fargo and other types of companies, and it's a national movement. And I'm pleased to have AJ in the studio today. And AJ, I want you to just tell us more about everything you're doing, your reasons for doing it, and what motivated you and what led you towards this path of greatness.
Yeah. No, man, thank you again for having me. I'm really happy to be here and be able to share a little bit about what we've done. So, #Lunchbag. It was something that a group of friends and myself started. It's back on, it's actually Christmas Eve, 2013. And a couple of my friends, JD and J-Dub, we were just kind of hanging out, watching TV. Christmas Eve, wasn't a whole lot going on. And they had came home with some unwrapped toys, and they're like, we sat in the living room with the intention of wrapping them and going down to the local children's hospital down in downtown LA, near downtown, and we were really excited to be able to drop these toys off to these kids so that they could see their faces light up. And when we showed up, the receptionist was just like, "Oh, you guys can leave them under the tree," and we did so, and we just kind of stood around like, well, it's nice to know that these are going to go to somebody, but what we didn't realize is we were looking for something. We couldn't really pinpoint what it was. So the next morning, again, I was just in a place in my life. I was 28 years old. By any quantifiable means, I was successful. I was doing well in business. And just socially, everything across the board, I had all the boxes checked. But for whatever reason, just felt like something was missing. And I was always told, if you're feeling down, go lift somebody else up. And I remembered a friend of mine, Felicia, who's one of the co-founders of the movement. Every once in a while, I would just scrolling past my Facebook feed, and I would see her, making 15, 20 sack lunches. She would go down the Santa Monica area, and she would just pass them out, and she would share what she did on social media, and it kind of stuck out to me. So I woke up on Christmas morning, like 6 a.m., just couldn't sleep, and decided I was just going to do that. Same thing, 24 hours, not even 12 hours before, kind of had an anticlimactic present drop-off situation. So I figured, all right, let me go to the local grocery store, arbitrarily chose to buy enough food to feed 100 people, but like legit meals, the type of meal that you would bring to school when you were in elementary school and other kids would be jealous,
Okay.
Like, oh, you gonna eat that? Let me get one. And then, came home, bought, meals consisted of a sandwich, a cookie, a piece of fruit, some fruit snacks, a Capri Sun, fruit juice, bottle of water. Yeah, right, me too. And then we wrote Merry Christmas over the course of the morning. Some of our friends came over, and we made a party out of it, just like we do everything else. We played some music. We might have opened a bottle of champagne. We were dancing. We just took our time, and we had a good time. I mean, we were looking for opportunities. We were surprised at how difficult it was to find an opportunity, let alone an opportunity that was easy and fun. I mean, that didn't feel like a chore. I'd done it before, and it just always never felt like there was humanity attached. But anyway, that Christmas afternoon, we had these 100 meals. We drove down to the Santa Monica Pier, Venice Boardwalk area, and we just passed them out to anybody that looked like they could have used a meal or just some acknowledgement from another human being, because often you look at the people that are in need and you're quick to dismiss them as drug addicts or bums or whatever. So I mean,
how did they receive you?
Oh, it was great. They were so thankful. They were so grateful. And so again, there was really no intention we other than this one. All we had was this moment. So whatever each of us were individually dealing with in our life for this moment, we were focused. And you can't help but be grateful for all the things that you have and present in the moment, rather than living in the past or being anxious about the future or having your desires run your mind and your wants versus your needs.
Let me get this call in real quick.
Yeah.
Not call in, but get the number in. If you guys want to call in and ask AJ any questions, feel free to do so at 323-843-2826. Again, 323-843-2826. Carry on, AJ.
So yeah, we did this basic act. Nothing revolutionary. Jesus was feeding people back in the Bible.
That's right.
There's tons of programs out there, but what's interesting about what we did is once we were done passing out these 100 meals, we could kind of tell each of us was having a moment. We're like, and we couldn't really pinpoint it, but we felt great. And in true modern day fashion, we busted out our mobile phones and we decided to share what we did on our Facebook, on our social media, on our Twitter and Instagram, and we jokingly named it #Lunchbag. We spelt the word hashtag out, even just because we were making fun of the way that people improperly use hashtags. Yeah. And it rhymed with Lunchbag, and we like rap music, so that made sense. It was, and we might have had one too many glasses of champagne when we thought of that, but whatever. That's when the best stuff happens. So we shared, and that's kind of where we got an overwhelming response from our friends and our followers, and likes, comments, retweets, and people just like, oh my God, that's amazing. Asking us, when's the next time you're going to do that? That sounds like I've been looking for something to do. I've been searching for a way to invest my time outside of myself. Let us know when you're going to do that again. And we thought we had no intention of doing it again. This was Christmas. This is like a designated day of giving. Christmas and Thanksgiving are the only times most people actually think to donate their time. And we had such a good time that we were like, let's do it again. So we set a date. We're like, let's just do it the last weekend of the following month, which was January 2013. So fast forward, we put a little message out like, hey, for those of you interested, because a lot of people said, hey, let me know the next time you do it. We're doing this at my house. Come through. So 10 people ended up showing up, which was double the number of the people that we had the first time. We made double the number of meals, played some music, same deal. Good times, fun, just good people, good energy. Went down to the pier, boardwalk, passed them out.
So when it grew, because how many cities are you in now?
Well, now we're in 130.
That's crazy.
You messed up my whole. That was my punchline.
We got a phone call coming in. Caller, please.
Yes.
Thank you for calling in. Please give me your name and the city you're calling in from.
My name is Tommy Fulop, and I'm calling from San Francisco. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hey, Tommy, how you doing?
Good afternoon, T.
Doing fantastic. Thank you. AJ, what a wonderful concept that you initiated and started.
Thank you.
I had to tune out. No, thank you. I tuned out there for a second, but I have a few questions for you, if you don't mind me asking.
No, go ahead.
A, do you plan on replicating this in other cities to create a movement? And on the second question to this, when you're handing these out, do you think you might become jaded if you see someone that you poured your heart into making these meals and they end up throwing it away?
Both good questions.
Yeah, thank you, Tommy. Thank you for calling.
Great questions, Tommy. So to answer question number one, do I see this as replicating in other cities? So to answer that question, as we mentioned, so after the second time we did it, it was something that we had committed to doing every last Sunday of the month, and ever since then, we started seeing people replicating our cause, and now we're in 127 cities all over the world.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So to answer your question, yes, and it's a very beautiful thing, and I think that what I can, aside from the committed action from us, from our team, from the founding team, from every single OG in every community, we call them OGs, original givers. So we're taking pop culture slang terminology and flipping it on its head to be something positive, and essentially what we realize, and this ties into your second question, is. A few months into it, we realized that the people that we were feeding and the fact that we were feeding them and the food, all of that was secondary to what we were actually doing. I'll be the first to admit, and so our team, this is something that I personally do for selfish reasons. I feel good when I do this. This helps me with whatever. Life is hard. It helps me with whatever can your mind can kind of create.
Yeah.
You're not as far as you want to be in your career and your
putting
business.
Good energy out there.
Exactly. And for the very first time in world history, every single person has the ability to do an act, however big or small, and inspire their friends and followers to at least integrate that intention into their daily life.
Tommy, thank you so much for calling. Tommy from San Francisco.
You are welcome. Thank you for having this show and allowing us to call in with the initial success of it and having great presenters on and your ideas and your thoughts being presented over the airways. It's much appreciated. Yet a black man putting out a positive and intuitive voice into the airwaves.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We do what we can. We do what we can. That's Tommy from San Francisco, everyone. Thanks for calling. The phone number to call in again is 323-843-2826. Again, 323-843-2826. There is something that when you are down, lifting someone else up kind of makes you feel better. And it's true that the energy you put out is what you get back. So even despite whatever circumstances you're dealing with, when you know that you were helping to ease someone else's pain, whatever things no matter where we are in regards to our status in life, our financial stability, whatever it is, there's no human, in my experiences, completely whole all the time. We're always in need or in search of something. And you found that one thing that allows you to, in that certain moment in time, feel good. Mm-hmm. And you're doing it for thousands. I was looking at some numbers. Like I said earlier, in regards to hunger, it says that 46.7 million people, 15% of the population, live in poverty. And that's including 15.5 million children under the age 18. And a poverty line for a family of 3. Okay, so this is the poverty line for the family of 3 is $20,000 a year. And that's $9.60 an hour. So if you have one person who's married or with a girlfriend and they have a kid, so that's a family of 3, and he's the only breadwinner. If he's making less than $9.60 an hour, they are living under the poverty line. Think about that.
Hello?
Hi, we have another caller in. Caller, may I have your name and the city you're calling from?
This is Rich.
Hi, Rich. Thanks for calling in.
Absolutely, Ron. Listening to the show right now, really pleased with all the work that AJ has done. And you're absolutely right. When you give somebody, when you lift somebody's spirits, you lift your own, because everything kind of goes in sync. Really, it's just the energy that is exchanged between two people. And any time that you do something good, you feel that inside. You get to keep what you give away energetically. And, kudos to you, AJ, and keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rich. Thank you very much. Is this Rich Barecki?
Yeah.
Rich Barecki. Rich Barecki is probably one of the best travel writers that you can ever find. You ought to Google him or friend him on Facebook. And I know his voice, and I know Rich, and I've seen some of his stuff, and I knew that voice when I heard it. He travels the world, and he writes about it, and it's like Anthony Bourdain, like without the food. So, Rich, thank you so much for calling in. Thank you for your comments and questions.
You guys can find that on richtrek.com, richtrek.com. You guys can read some of the travel writings. Been to 57 countries, including Syria, if you want an interesting read, what it was like before Civil War. But, AJ, congratulations on what you're doing. Again, hats off to you, and, just keep on putting the good energy out there.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich. Thank you. That number again is area code 323-843-2826. Again, 323-843-2826. So like I was saying before Rich called in, if you're a family of 3 and you have one, let's say the man is working in the house and he has a job and he's making under $9.60 an hour, then they are under the poverty line. And just think about, in some instances, there are some people that are in that position. If you're one person and you're living by yourself, it means you don't have children and you don't have a spouse or a girlfriend or something living with you, and you're the only one in the house. The poverty line for you is $5.60 an hour, which equates to about $11,700 a year. $5.60 an hour. If you're making under that, then you are living below poverty. That makes us think a lot about wages. living wages versus minimum wage. That's an entirely different show, and we're going to have that show. But think about how many working poor. There's a difference between, we talk a lot about the unemployed and how the unemployment percentage is down, which is fine, and which is great, actually. But we don't talk about the wages that those are employed and what we call underemployment. Underemployment is when you have to work multiple jobs in order to make it. And underemployment is a situation where, let's say this person that has $5.60 an hour has to work 2 or 3 jobs making that amount just so he can make ends meet. And that's not good for anyone. Looks like we have another caller coming in. Caller, can I have your name and your city you're calling in, please?
This is Woody Wilson calling from Los Angeles.
Woody Wilson. Woody was on last week.
What's up, man?
Yes, Woody. How are you today?
Oh, good. Fantastic, Ron. That put me right through. How you doing?
Yeah,
AJ, you're doing wonderful things out there. That's your story is inspiring. I just had a quick question for you because, we all see homeless folks on the street and just wonder what their story is. Do you ever get an opportunity to speak to them about how they ended up on the street? I know we have a lot of mental issues with some of the homeless folks. Some just fall on bad luck, but I was just wondering if you've heard any interesting stories out there.
Absolutely. Our movement, as it's kind of evolved, the number one thing that we realize is what we're doing for not just the people that we're feeding, but the people that the communities that we're building around these issues is we're giving them the ability to acknowledge these people that are on the street as human beings. So part of our process when we're hosting our events is every volunteer is required to write what we call a love note. All right, and that's the secret ingredient that goes into our meals, and it's something that when the person who's receiving a lunch, when they open the bag, the first thing that they read is a handwritten love note that acknowledges their humanity.
That's cool.
There's plenty of opportunities for these people to be fed through different feeding programs, but one of the most interesting things is you look at everybody just like us. They all have a story. They all have preferences. They all have I've heard countless stories, but what I've learned is, what I said earlier was you're quick to write somebody off as a drug addict or as lazy, or when in reality that could be any one of us. We could be one layoff away from like some people don't have. Like I know that if my day job and what I did for a living, if for whatever reason that spigot stopped, providing me with the necessities that I needed to stay alive, and I know I would have a family and friends that wouldn't let me get to that point. But not everybody has that luxury. So I've met people that are like, I was a banker. 2008 hit, and I lost my job, I lost my house, my wife left me, and now I'm out here on the streets, kind of doing I've actually seen people that I know. That are like AJ, and I'm like, whoa, we used to play ball together, or we used to play in the sandbox together.
It's real. What
happened to you? So, I and then I hear other stories, man. Like one of our guys down in Phoenix, he organized. He's an OG down in Phoenix, and he organizes a monthly #Lunchbag event, and this was one of the more touching stories. He was walking around and he saw this beautiful, beautiful 5-year-old girl digging through a dumpster. And he asked her, like, what are you doing? And she says, I'm looking for my lunch. So he gives her a lunch and he asks her, where's your mom? And she points down the alley. And then she walks him over the alley and he starts talking to the mother. And the mother, he's talking to her. He's like, what happened? What's going on? She goes, well, my husband left me. He was the breadwinner. I was a stay-at-home mom. He doesn't support us anymore. I have nowhere to go. The dude just happened to be a radio DJ. So he, over the next 30 days, he crowdfunded with all of his listeners. And in 30 days, he raised enough money to get this woman and her daughter a place to live, books and toys, got the little girl in school, and got the woman a job. So, and then there's thousands of stories like that. Yeah, I could go on and on, but I know we only got an hour.
Oh, my God. Thank you again, Woody, for calling in. We really appreciate you calling and appreciate you supporting the show. And Woody Wilson will be on the show again, guys. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. That's real. That's tough. And you know what? And we have a lot of homeless out here in Los Angeles. We both go to the same sports club, but right around the corner from the gym, right on Cotner in West LA. Have you noticed it's almost like a little shanty
And
town?
it's doubling. It's tripling. It's growing
It's
exponentially.
growing
in the last
exponentially.
Year, yeah.
It's like an entire community of homeless back there, and that's telling, because at the same time as that's happening, there are a certain smaller segment of the society that's doing extremely well,
Better than they've ever done.
better than they've ever done, and we are the most prosperous. I mean, let's put it like this. You've been in other countries, and if you go down to places where they have poverty, some neighborhoods, if you drive through in L.A., you would know that you were in L.A. That one little strip there on Cotner, if you were to just look left and right, and let's just say there's something up where you couldn't see the highway there, and you just look left and right, you wouldn't know that you were in West LA. You would think that you're in some, like I said, a shanty town, or it's weird. It's just weird seeing that and driving through that and knowing that these individuals are obviously hurting, or they've come on bad times, and this stuff happens all the time. So I don't know exactly what the cure for it is, but at the same time, it does say a lot about our society in regards to what we prioritize. I know there are mental health issues, and I understand that the funding for mental health has gone down considerably, which has left a lot of these people without any sort of treatment, any sort of help, any sort of support, and so they're left to go into the streets. But at the same time, we get caught up in the glitz and glam of everything else that's going on around us, and our fellow man is having to deal with that. And that's just a little perspective that we need to keep in mind, and count our blessings. Count our blessings. But you're one of the few people that we can look at as a true example of he's really doing it. He's not just talking about it; he's doing it, and he's doing it. Did you say internationally too?
Yeah.
Where else are you doing it?
We just recently had a huge event in Nha Trang, Vietnam. Shout out to my boy TK for putting that on. We've been in
You doing it in Vietnam now?
Vietnam, South Africa, Johannesburg, Rio de Janeiro, Bangkok, Hong Kong, London, Spain, Barcelona.
So hashtag Lunchbag has gone from your living room on Christmas Eve when y'all sipping on champagne to now being in over 100 cities in the U.S.
in the world.
And 100 cities in the world, including
127.
127 cities in the world, including Vietnam, South Africa. Where else?
London, Barcelona, Madrid, Gambia is coming on. The government of Gambia is actually going to be finding a way to integrate this. The United States consulate down in Johannesburg, South Africa. We're in Canada.
All the viewers and listeners out there, once you get the podcast for this show, this guy that we have on, this is a role model. This is what a real role model should be. He does it because it's right. He does it because it's fulfilling to him. So it's good. It's a good selfish. You're doing it because your heart is good, and you're doing it and it's helping out your fellow man. And it's growing, and people are, that's crazy.
But you touched on an issue earlier, you know, on mental health. It's not just these people that are in the streets. Every one of us has our own mental health. It's a struggle to be a human being, to wake up every day and face your life and go out and wonder if you married the right person, or if you're a good enough father or mother, or, and it's just, you just sit here and you wonder, and you're like, again, I said this earlier, and I'll never stray away from this. This is something that my friends and I do for very selfish reasons. It helps keep that perspective. I mean, I think that my generation is the first one on social media. We're all, social media is young. It's in its infancy. It's been about 10 years since it's been around. Yeah. And, I think that's causing more mental health issues in us. Constantly scrolling in our feeds.
Exactly. I'm about to do that right now.
Constantly comparing your best to somebody else, your worst to your friend's best. When you're realizing that everybody's only posting their highlight reel when you're sitting alone at home and you're looking at it. So we just basically took that and flipped it on its head, and we said, hey, the same way you can do this, you can use it to inspire other people to integrate some type of a little bit of kindness, not just for the people that you're serving, not out of guilt. It doesn't have to be a chore. It doesn't. It's all about. I hate the word charity. We're not a charity. We're not a community service opportunity. That's all. We're humanity service, not just the people that we're serving, but for ourselves. So our tagline is actually to feed and feel love. So when you feed somebody with food, you're feeding a deeper hunger that each and every one of us have inside of ourselves, and you get to feel tenfold that meal that you're passing, that acknowledgement that you're giving the person that's hungry, you're getting that back 10 times over because you're renewing that the same way we go to the same sports club and we work out and we exercise our body and our conditioning. It's just another muscle. Your heart is a muscle that needs that type of reminder.
So tell me, for the listeners and viewers out there, if they want to become involved with #Lunchbag, how would they do it?
We made it really easy. The part of the reason that we've been able to grow so big is because we literally, after the second time that we did it, we got some pretty high profile retweets, and we thought it was all a backwards. We built it backwards. We decided to build a website, and we made it. We just told our story. We said, these are some friends wanted to give, didn't know how. This is what we did. Here's 5 easy steps on how you can do it yourself. And because we provided a do-it-yourself, we taught a man how to fish. Other people started because it was cool and it was fun.
Yeah.
We gave people, call some friends, go to the grocery store. Here's a shopping list. Play some music. Here's some playlists. Because we like to think we're cool and we kind of know what's going on. And other people started mimicking our model and taking it and made it their own, which is exactly, it's like open source fun. So if you go to #lunchbag.com, the word hashtag spelled out again, because we're assholes and we just wanted to be funny. And everything is there for you. It's pretty basic. You can learn more about the origins of it in detail, and you can reach out to us.
So tell me, how did you get involved with Wells Fargo and some of those other organizations?
Yeah, so I actually had an old friend of mine. Again, goes back to social media. You never know who's watching. I had an old friend of mine. She worked at an ad agency, and she direct messaged me on Facebook and said, "Hey, I work at an ad agency. One of our, I think there's, would you ever be open to, working with any corporate clients?" And I said, "I'm down." She's like, "Why don't you come down and have coffee with me?" And I was like, "All right." So I thought I was going to have coffee with her. Turns out the coffee was in a conference room with her entire agency.
Wow.
And I think she was new, and I think she was kind of going out on a limb with kind of pitching an idea. And I walked in, and she was like explaining who the agency was, how they have a particular client that was launching a new service, and she thought that their mission was in line with what we were kind of doing. So I shared my story that I just shared with you, and half the room had already heard of it.
Wow.
This was about a little over a year into it. And oh, my son does that in Washington D.C., or my cousin does that in Cleveland, and I was like, wow, word. And then by the time I was done with my spiel, the president started crying. She goes, "That's the most beautiful shit I ever heard."
I know.
So I'm like, well, so she told us who the client was, and it was a major financial institution, Wells Fargo, been around for 200 years, and try to fast forward, we kind of came up with a story that was authentic to our origins and what we wanted to do, and they're like, "Hey, you guys are actually all pretty cool. Would you want to be in the commercial?" And I'm like, "Nah." And then my friend kicked me under the table and was like, like we should, So fast forward, they ended up becoming a huge contributor to what we're doing, helping us as we continue. We're still a volunteer-ran organization. We don't have any funding, which is, I was thinking about that in the shower. I think in the shower. That's when I think.
That's when you think.
And I was like, man, we started a global movement off of $136.42.
That's crazy. That's crazy. It shows the power of ideas and commitment, right? Exactly.
It's if you there's an old Mother Teresa quote that goes, "We the willing, being led by the unknowing, have done the impossible for the ungrateful. We've done so much with so little for so long that we're now capable of doing anything with absolutely nothing at all."
Now, we both could go ahead and spit some rap lyrics, but you just came up with Mother Teresa. AJ, you dropped the mic.
Yeah.
You dropped the mic. He came with a Mother Teresa quote. Dang, I feel so inadequate right now. I don't have any Mother Teresa.
Yeah, go feed somebody. You'll feel better.
Oh, okay, I'm going to do that later on today, actually. But is there like what's your goal? Like, when would you say, okay, #Lunchbag is, Like, is there like an end goal? Tell me about it. Is there something like that?
So as we continue to really figure out, we constantly go back and forth. Is our mission? Are we going to end hunger? Is having one event? If it's me hosting one event with my friends once a month, really putting a dent in the fact that you said it, 15% of our citizens are in poverty, yet 40% of our food goes to waste. And if we want to go even further into environmental issues, we have a drought here in California. 25% of fresh water goes towards producing food that will eventually be wasted. We have a landfill issue, and 80% of landfills are filled with wasted food. So it's not that there's not enough, it's just that people don't give a shit, right? So what we're doing, what we realize, I mentioned it earlier, that the food and homelessness is actually secondary. We're creating awareness. We're educating people, and we're presenting them with the opportunity to do something that they didn't know that they needed. And the ancillary benefits are to society. We draw awareness to this in a cool way, in a light way. We're not guilting anybody. We hope that we're not compassion fatiguing. We're making it fun and cool and sexy to be
you're
kind.
definitely not guilty, man. You're inspiring. That's what you're doing. The hashtag Lunchbag. You guys need to really become involved with that. And if you think about it, lots of the world's ills have come from poverty and hunger. Most of the wars that are fought are over natural resources that are manifest through poverty and hunger. The ills in our country, a lot of it is manifest through poverty and hunger. Poverty is a killer. It said poverty affects so many parts of our lives that we may not think about. When people are hungry, if they can't find shelter for themselves, then they may not be able to find food for themselves on a regular basis. And that brings human beings to the point of desperation because they're in survival mode. At the same time, when you have these children that aren't properly nourished, that means they don't have proper brain development. That means they can't learn properly. And if they can't learn properly, there's no way they can function in the society in a progressive manner. And so there you got, people that can't learn end up getting into trouble and crime and all that type of stuff. Families break up because of poverty. You can't, one of the leading reasons why divorces occur because of financial distress. So you think about poverty, think about hunger and its ramifications for our civilization as a whole. Then you juxtapose that with the fact that we are the wealthiest country on the face of the earth. Then we need to hold our elected officials responsible for their policies. I don't really give a damn whether or not gay people can get married. I don't give a damn whether or not somebody burns a flag. This is just my own personal thing. Is it disrespectful? Yeah. But whether or not somebody burns a flag should not dictate whether or not you vote for them. You need to see what their policies are like, what their tax policies are like, if it's fair. And fair is somewhat subjective depending on what your bracket is, but we mean fair in the way that it affects our civilization as a whole. Opportunities. It's one thing to have opportunities. It's another thing to provide opportunities. And so if you provide opportunities, then you have to provide the whole person that opportunity. That means that person needs to come up in a situation where they are properly fed, where they have those basic necessities or the opportunity to attain those. This is what I believe. These are the things I think we can improve on that can make our country even better. We're still the best place on the face of the earth, in my opinion, and only a place like this can launch something like that. Only someone like AJ here could make something like this happen on a global scale. And AJ, again, thank you for being here. You've been an inspiration. I'm hungry now. You didn't bring me a hashtag Lunchbag. What's up with that?
We could go grab a bite.
I want turkey too. I don't eat red meat. Is that terrible? Let's think about it real quick. I know we're gonna cut off soon, but I wonder if like the dietary restrictions we have, poor people, they don't have that.
No, they do. Here's the thing.
They do?
You'll be on the street passing out meals. You'll hear somebody ask, what kind of sandwich is that? Oh, it's turkey. oh, I don't eat turkey, or I don't like mustard, and then but you really take a second. There's shit that you don't like either. There's things that I don't like. These are human. They're just like us, right? They have allergies or they have preferences.
Yeah.
And just because they
haven't lost their humanity.
They're allowed to have that.
That's right.
So again, as long as the simple solution is to acknowledge everyone as a human being. It just makes the world easier. Just be kind. Our whole thing isn't to get you to join us. Our mission here isn't to create a nonprofit organization that's going to last forever.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you. Thanks again to Ajay Relan. Thanks to everybody tuning in around the country and around the world. Look us up on Facebook. You can look at my Facebook account and give me some ideas of some shows you'd like to hear. Next week, we're going to have a great show as well. We're going to have Kareem Webb, franchisee and who owns all of the Buffalo Wild Wings in Southern California, a young brother that's really doing it. And thank you again. We're going to sign off right now. Focus with Ron Frierson.